Welcome to the paper presentation session. 5 papers are presented on the theme Sex versus Gender.
Good afternoon to you all, respected chairperson and other dignitaries on dais. I am Shontu Bishwas, lecturer, the General College, Krishnagir. I am presenting my paper with Dr. Porimal Sarkar, Netaji Subhash Open University, Assistant Professor. The topic is Role of Education in Gender Equality in the Indian Perspective. Gender inequality in India refers to all kinds of inequalities like health, education, economic, social and political between man and woman. There is an unending continuous controversy for measuring the highest position of man and woman in every sphere of society. Though in the present era, the concept of gender is not confined within the man and woman only but extended as different gender identities including male, female, transgender, gender neutral, non-binary, agender, pangender and gender query, two-spirit, third gender, etc. etc. Gender equality is a rights-based approach in India, but in reality scenario is different because there is no single day without gender discrimination in India. Now the question is where the problem is actually lies. Answer may be multiple, but attitude is pertinent one of them. Still we have a negative attitude toward opposite and other gender. In the light of this, gender inequality analyzes the international conventions and constitutional mandate along with statutory mechanism to tackle the discrimination based on sex in the most significant matter, that is education. The significance of the present study is gender equality means that males and females have equal opportunity to realize their full human rights and contribute to and benefit from economic, social, cultural and political development. This equality has been ensured by the Indian Constitution under the Article 15. This article prevents the state from discriminating against any citizen of India or violating their equal rights on the basis of race, caste, religion, class or sex, etc. There should be certain provisions that need to be made by the state authority for the benefit of the women in the every field. But in reality, gender disparity is seen in everywhere. In most of cases, female is victimized by their male counterparts. Sometimes opposite scenario is also noticed. To be practical, this framework must draw clear distinction and demonstrate interrelationship among the concept of gender parity, gender equity and gender equality. In addition to drawing out the nonsense between equality and equity, the framework also reinforces other key issues in education such as access, quality, continuity and relevance. Educators should foster in students equality, promote and strengthen the constitutional culture and stability. To promote equality, it will be necessary to provide for equal opportunity to all, not only in access to education but also in the conditions for access. The present study, after the review of the related literature, I have to find and select two objectives of the study. So the present study was undertaken to achieve the following objectives: to highlight the vulnerability of gender inequality in India and to analyze the role of education for combating the gender disparity. Statement of the problem: The present study attempts to describe the functions of education in gender equality. So, therefore, the researcher considered the title of the problem as Role of Education in Gender Equality in the Indian perspective. Methodology basically it is a qualitative study and it's based on official documents and secondary data. The conclusion made in the study is based on secondary sources. The secondary sources are like that data relating like that the journal, articles, a newspaper, newsletter, etc., etc. Some related informations were extracted from various websites. Okay, the discussion objectives one to highlight the vulnerability of gender equality in India. Gender inequality in India refers to health, education, economic, and political inequalities between men and women in India. Various international gender inequality indicates rank India differently on each of these factors as well as on a composite basis, and this indicates the controversial. Gender inequalities and their social causes impact in Indian sex ratio, women's health over their lifetimes, their educational attainment, economic conditions. Gender inequality in India is a multifaceted issues that concern men and women, and some like that lack of mobility. Uh, Sometimes like backward mobility will be arise this problem. Then freedom of marriage, discriminatory diverse rights, divorce right, citizenship, frontline combat, custody rights, gender-based violence, professional obstacles. Okay, all these are vulnerability of gender inequality in India. Okay, then the objective two to analyze the role of education for combating the gender disparity. এখানে এডুকেশন বা শিক্ষা কি কোন ধরনের রোল প্লে করছে বা জেন্ডার ডিসপ্যারিটি গুলোকে বা জেন্ডার ইকুয়ালিটিকে আনার জন্য শিক্ষা কোন ধরনের ভূমিকা পালন করছে। আমরা জানি যে বর্তমান পরিস্থিতিতে আমরা দেখছি যেটা আমাদের সারা দেশেই একটা এই সেক্সুয়াল হ্যারাসমেন্ট, রেপ, এইসব বিষয় নিয়ে এতটা পরিমাণে চারিদিকে ছড়িয়ে গেছে, যার ফলে কোথাও না কোথাও আজকে ইকুয়ালিটি বা মেয়েদের সুরক্ষা, উমেন এম্পাওয়ারমেন্ট, ফেমিনিজম, এই জায়গাগুলো ভীষণভাবে চলে আসছে। সো সেখানে শিক্ষা কিভাবে জেন্ডার ইকুয়ালিটিকে আনে এবং জেন্ডার ডিসপ্যারিটিকে কম্ব্যাক্টিং দ্য জেন্ডার ডিসপ্যারিটি বা এই ইনইকুয়ালিটিকে দূর করে। সো হিয়ার দ্য ফার্স্ট পয়েন্ট ইজ মেক এডুকেশন জেন্ডার সেন্সিটিভ. There has been much progress in increasing access to education, but progress has been slow in improving the gender sensitivity of the education system, including ensuring textbooks promote positive stereotypes. This is critically important for girls to come out the schools as citizens who can shape a more equal society. In some countries, there is a tendency to assume that things are fine as long as they're equal member of girls in schools. Global Partnership for Education, Washington DC, USA. Equal access to all. In crisis situation, the right of gender sensitivity education is critical and should be fulfilled without discrimination of any kind. National authorities, communities, and humanitarian organizations have the responsibility to ensure that all people have access to educational activities. This means assessing and addressing the need of and priorities of excluded groups and those with different learning needs in the specific context. So discriminatory policies and practices that limit access to learner but learning opportunities should be identified and steps taken to address them. Another one is a protection and well-being, gender role stereotyping, integrating life skill and gender equality, promoting psychological well-being, gender equitability, print-rich environment in school, gender-responsive textbook and libraries, teacher the torch bearer, বলা হয় teacher is a torch bearer of gender equality. অ্যান্ড দেন দ্য কনক্লুশন। সো সময়ের জন্য আর কি আমাকে একটু এগিয়ে যেতে হচ্ছে, যেহেতু 5 মিনিট সময়। দেন দ্য কনক্লুশন, ফর ওভারঅল ওয়েলবিং অ্যান্ড গ্রোথ অফ আ নেশন, স্কোরিং হাই অন জেন্ডার ইকুয়ালিটি is the most crucial aspect. Countries with less disparity in gender equality have progressed a lot. The government of India has also started taking steps to ensure gender equality. Several law and policies are prepared to encourage girls, beti bachao, beti padhao, safe girl and make safe educated. And also West Bengal, some policies like Konyashree Prokolpo campaign. It is created to spread awareness of the importance of girl child. Several law to protect girls are also there, like Article 15, Article 14, Article 16, 17, 18. However, we need more awareness of spreading knowledge of women rights. In addition, the government should take initiative to check the correct and proper implementation of policies. Education is crucial in combating the spread of HIV, AIDS, and in promoting women's sexual and reproductive health. Moreover, education is important for women's political and civic participation and in prevention gender based violence and insecurity. And then the reference, uh, thank you, thank you, thank you for these opportunities.
Good morning everyone. My name is Amisha De from Sociology Department of South Calcutta Girls College. I will be presenting my joint paper with my co-partner and my classmate Adrita Banerjee and me on topic sex versus gender as a sociological study. So firstly, I would like to discuss about what is sex and gender. So what is sex? Sex refers to physical and physiological differences between male and female, including both primary sex characteristics, that is the reproductive system, and secondary characteristics such as height and masculinity. And now what is the difference between masculinity and femininity? So what is masculinity? Masculinity is a set of behavior, attributes, roles associated with male, men or boys. And what is femininity? Femininity is a set of behavior, roles, attributes, activities which is associated with females, girls and women. And now what is gender? Gender is the term that refers to the social and cultural distinctions of being male and female. Gender also refers to constructed roles, behaviors, attributes, activities of male and female. Coming to my next point, which is difference between sex and gender. Now, the distinctions between sex and gender is a very important point, which can be highlighted, sex versus gender. So, the UK government defines sex as referring to biological aspects of individuals as determined by their anatomy, which is produced by chromosomes, hormones and their interactions. Now, the sex including male and female, and it is something that is assigned by birth, and there have sex identity, namely homosexual and heterosexual. And now gender, the UK government defines gender as a social construction relating to behaviors and attributes based on a label of masculinity and femininity. The gender including third gender, male, female, boys and girls, lesbians and gay, etc. And it is also assigned at birth. Coming to last part of my topic, conclusion. So I would like to tell you that sex is the first organizer of humans, and this is filtered by gender. So gender labor and status depends on the cultural factors. So the explanations of these differences are continued to be advanced. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone. The topic of today's webinar is looking at gender through varying lenses. I'm going to talk about our paper Sex versus Gender, a Social Dystopia. This PowerPoint presentation has been made by me, Gangotri Roy, and my fellow presenter Nasimara Begum. We both are honors students of South Calcutta Girls College, Department of Sociology, Kolkata, West Bengal. Sex and gender are two very different concepts. While sex is biologically defined, gender is a social construct, a sense of self, whether an individual sees themselves as a man or a woman. Gender identity is the outward manifestations of personality that reflect the gender identity. Hegemonic masculinity refers to idealized standards for men and male bodies, and femininity refers to the idealized standards for women and female bodies. Sexual identity is how one thinks of oneself in terms to whom one is romantically or sexually attracted. It refers to sexual orientation. Significance of sexual and gender variation in society. Gender is classified into two distinct opposite forms of masculine and feminine by social system, and gender roles are given to them, which is behavior that are generally considered acceptable, appropriate or desirable based on that person's biological or perceived sex. And these idealized roles are learned by children through social expectations typically associated with boys and girls. This leads to gender stratification and inequality and makes sexual variations a taboo in the society. Gender expression should be free of stereotypes. So, in conclusion, it may be said that the central theme of our paper is to create awareness that gender is fluid and may not depend upon biological traits. Sexual orientation in our society should be free from any sorts of gender hegemony, and we should promote gender equality and harmony for a better future of our society. These are the few references we have used. Thank you for listening, and we hope we could create a little awareness with our presentation.
নমস্কার। আমার বিষয় লিঙ্গ, সমাজ, রাজনীতি ও তাত্ত্বিক পরিক্রমা। একটি প্রচলিত প্রবাদ থেকে নারী সম্পর্কে সমাজ মানসিকতার পরিচয় পাওয়া যায়। মেয়ের নাম ফেলি, জমকে দিলে গেলি, জামাইকে দিলেও গেলি। সমাজ নারী ও পুরুষকে পৃথক বিচারে মাপ করে দেয়। পিতৃতান্ত্রিক সমাজে নারী যতখানি জৈবিক বৈশিষ্ট্যে পৃথক, তার থেকে অনেকটাই সামাজিক নিক্তিত্বে বিচার্য হয়। রবীন্দ্রনাথ বলেছেন, নারী সমাজের ফলিয়ে তোলা পরিচয়কে অবলম্বন করে জীবনযাপন করে। সভ্যতার যেদিন জন্ম হয়নি, তখন বরং নারীর ভূমিকা ছিল সম্মানের। যত অগ্রগতির পথে সময় এগিয়েছে, সভ্যতা আত্মপ্রকাশ করতে শুরু করেছে, ততই নারী শৃঙ্খলিত হয়েছে। পুরুষ ও নারী শব্দ দুটিতে পুরুষতান্ত্রিকতা ও নারী কেন্দ্রিকতা অস্তিত্ববান। নারীর নানা সামাজিক সম্বোধন আছে, কন্যা, জায়া, জননী প্রভৃতি। সব পরিচয়গুলিতেই পরনির্ভরতা প্রতীয়মান। সমাজ মনে করে পুরুষকে প্রভু জ্ঞানে সেবা করাই নারীর ধর্ম। ভৃত্য ও ভার্যা শব্দ দুটির ব্যুৎপত্তি ভ্রী ধাতু। সহজেই অনুমেয় প্রকৃত চিত্রটা কী? পিতৃতান্ত্রিক যুক্তিশৃঙ্খলায় অভ্যস্ত পুরুষ নিজেকে সত্তার অভিধা দিয়েছে, আর নারীকে দিয়েছে অপরের পদবি। সন্তান পালন, রান্নাঘর সামলানো, ঘরকন্নার কাজ প্রভৃতিতে আবদ্ধ থেকেছে সে শতাব্দীর পর শতাব্দী। অশিক্ষা, অবিদ্যা, নানাবিধ আচার বিচারের বেড়াজালে নারী আত্মা কেঁদে ফিরেছে। হিন্দু শাস্ত্রে স্ত্রী শিক্ষার বিরুদ্ধে কোনো মত না থাকলেও দীর্ঘকাল শিক্ষার অধিকার থেকে মেয়েরা বঞ্চিত থেকেছে। বিদ্যাসাগর, রামমোহন প্রভৃতি মহামানবের হাত ধরে বাংলায় নবজাগরণ এলো নারী জাগরণ। পর্দা প্রথার বাইরে এলো নারী, উন্মুক্ত হলো শিক্ষার অঙ্গন। যদিও সে সময় কেশব সেন প্রমুখগণ নারী শিক্ষার ক্ষেত্রে নারীসুলভ বিদ্যাচর্চার কথাই তারা বলেছেন। জ্যামিতি, দর্শনশাস্ত্র প্রভৃতি দুরূহ বিষয় নাকি নারী আয়ত্ত করতে পারে না। বহু মহাপুরুষগণ, যেমন অ্যারিস্টটল বলতেন, নারীরা স্বাধীন হলেও পুরুষের নিচে। প্লেটো নারীকে স্ত্রী হিসেবে পরিচয় দিতে পছন্দ করতেন। ফ্যাসিস্ট হিটলার যুদ্ধের সময় নারীদের বলেছিলেন, গো ব্যাক টু কিচেন, রান্নাঘরে ফিরে যাও। মেয়েরা লেখাপড়া শিখলে বিধবা হয়, সংসারে দুর্ভাগ্য নেমে আসে, শিক্ষা পেলে মেয়েরা অসতী হয়, ইত্যাদি নানা সামাজিক সমস্যা একসময় ছিল। নারী রাজনৈতিক স্বীকৃতি আদায় সেও আর এক দীর্ঘ অধ্যায়, এখন যা অনাদায়ী থেকে গেছে। সংবিধান সংশোধন করে নারী সংক্রান্ত দাবি সংযোজিত করা হয়েছে। সশস্ত্র স্বাধীনতা আন্দোলনে নারী রীতিমতো গৌরবোজ্জ্বল ভূমিকা সত্ত্বেও স্বাধীন ভারতবর্ষ নারীদের অধিকার প্রতিষ্ঠা করতে পারেনি। তাদের জন্য সামাজিক ন্যায়, রাজনৈতিক ন্যায় প্রতিষ্ঠিত হয়নি। ৭৩তম সংবিধান সংশোধন ১৯৯৩ সালে পঞ্চায়েত ও পৌরসভায় মেয়েদের জন্য ১/৩ আসন সংরক্ষণ আইন পাশ হলেও বিধানসভা ও লোকসভায় তা অধরা থেকে গিয়েছে। মেয়েরা নিজেদের দাবি দেওয়া নিয়ে এগিয়ে আসে প্রথম শিল্প বিপ্লবের সময়, সম কাজে সম বেতন ও অন্যান্য নানা দাবি নিয়ে। পরবর্তীকালে নানাভাবে নানা আন্দোলন সংগঠিত হয়। পাশ্চাত্য দেশে, বিশেষত আমেরিকায়, নারীবাদী আন্দোলন বিভিন্ন অভিমুখে প্রায় জঙ্গি নারী আন্দোলনের আকারেও কখনো কখনো প্রকাশ পেতে থাকে। মেইন স্ট্রিম ফেমিনিজম, র্যাডিক্যাল ফেমিনিজম, লিবারাল ফেমিনিজম প্রভৃতি বিভিন্ন নামে বিভিন্ন সময়ে তা প্রতীয়মান হয়। এমনকি দেশ, সময়, তার চাহিদাকে কেন্দ্র করে নানা রূপে তা আত্মপ্রকাশ করে আসছে। সমাজ বদলাচ্ছে, নারীর লিঙ্গভিত্তিক সমস্যাও ততটাই অন্য অভিমুখে প্রকাশিত হয়ে চলেছে।
নমস্কার, আমি ভাস্বতী ঘোষ। আমার আজকের উপস্থাপিত নিবন্ধের বিষয় সেক্স ভার্সেস জেন্ডার। ঐতিহাসিকভাবে জৈবিক লিঙ্গ এবং সামাজিক লিঙ্গ শব্দটি আত্মবিস্মরণীয়ভাবে ব্যবহৃত হয়েছে, তবে তাদের ব্যবহার ক্রমে স্বতন্ত্র হয়ে উঠেছে। তাই বর্তমানে সামাজিক রাজনৈতিক প্রেক্ষাপটে উভয়ের মধ্যে পার্থক্য বোঝা গুরুত্বপূর্ণ। এই নিবন্ধটি জৈবিক লিঙ্গের অর্থ এবং লিঙ্গগুলির মধ্যে পার্থক্যগুলি দেখবে। এটি লিঙ্গের অর্থ এবং লিঙ্গের ভূমিকার ধারণাগুলি, লিঙ্গ পরিচয় এবং লিঙ্গ প্রকাশের দিকেও নজর দেবে। সমাজে একজন পুরুষ বা মহিলার ভূমিকা বা নিজের প্রতি নিজের ধারণাকে ইঙ্গিত করতে পারে। কখনো কখনো কোনো ব্যক্তির জেনেটিক অর্পিত লিঙ্গ তাদের লিঙ্গ পরিচয়ের সাথে মিল রাখে না। এই ব্যক্তিরা তাদেরকে তৃতীয় লিঙ্গ, নন বাইনারি লিঙ্গ, নন কনফার্মিং ইত্যাদি হিসেবে উল্লেখ করতে পারে। ভারতবর্ষে বেশিরভাগ মানুষই যৌনতা ও লিঙ্গ সম্পর্কে বেশ সরল ধারণা নিয়ে বেড়ে উঠেছে, যথা নর এবং নারী দুটি জৈবিক লিঙ্গ রয়েছে এবং তারা উভয় পুরুষ এবং মহিলা এই দুই সামাজিক লিঙ্গ দ্বারা শ্রেণীবদ্ধ হয়। কিন্তু তৃতীয় লিঙ্গ, লিঙ্গ নন কনফার্মিং, নন বাইনারি ইত্যাদি লোকের বর্ধিত দৃশ্যমানতার সাথে অনেক লোক বুঝতে শুরু করেছে যে লিঙ্গ এবং লিঙ্গের বিভাগগুলি আরও জটিল। এই নিবন্ধে আমরা প্রতিটি লিখিত শর্ত আসলে কি বোঝায় সে সম্পর্কে আরও ভালো ধারণা পাওয়ার জন্য জৈবিক লিঙ্গ এবং সামাজিক লিঙ্গের মধ্যে পার্থক্যকে ভেঙে দেখাবো। সাধারণ ভাষায় জৈবিক লিঙ্গ বলতে যৌনাঙ্গ এবং জেনেটিক পার্থক্যগুলির মতো পুরুষ এবং স্ত্রীদের মধ্যে জৈবিক পার্থক্য বোঝায়। সামাজিক লিঙ্গ সংজ্ঞায়িত করা আরও বেশি কঠিন, তবে এটি লিঙ্গ ভূমিকা হিসেবে পরিচিত।
16 papers are presented on the theme Historical Evolution of Gender Thought.
Myself, Anirban Ghosh, Assistant Professor of Disari College of Education, Bardhaman. The name of co-author of my paper is Dr. Chandan Adhikari, Associate Professor, Department of Education, the University of Bardhaman. It's a great privilege for me to convey my sincere gratitude to the Siliguri B.Ed College Authority for giving me the opportunity to share my views on the topic entitled Praxis of Gender Equity in Curriculum Transaction, a Transformative Pedagogy. Introduction. The term gender symbolized a social contract that is an internal sense of self, behavior, ability, roles, status, expectations, earning capability, and activities within society that human has evolved. The term gender is used in place of sex because while sex refers to the binary divisions between males and females in terms of biological discrimination based on their chromosomes, hormones, and secondary sexual characteristics, etc. Inequality of gender is evidenced in the curriculum of primary, secondary, and higher secondary institutions. Mainly, there are two types of curriculum, that is formal and informal. Formal curriculum introduced by government or institutions. They are defined as sets of objectives, context, resources, and assessments. Informal curriculum, also defined as hidden or unofficial, refer to attitude, values, beliefs, assumptions, and unclear agendas underlying the learning process. When our society was established, some high profile as well as high ranked people set some rules regarding gender divisions and lifestyle of males and females. These conventional rules have been repeated generation to generation. Consequently, the female has been oppressed, humiliated, and brutalized era after era. Various social activists and reformers have come forward to remove the stereotype system of gender inequality as well as discriminations of works which are varied between male and female. In this socio-cultural platform, the teachers or educators has a great role to clarify all these gender issues and make a way to their learning outcomes. Praxis of gender equity is to be exercised judiciously and strategically through reflective practice on the part of the teachers so that the questions of gender equity may be justified. The keywords of my papers is praxis, gender equity, curriculum transactions, gender stereotype, role of teachers. Objectives. The objectives of my paper to explore the needs and importance of a gender-friendly approach in curriculum transactions. Second, the find out innovative strategies for studying praxis of gender equity in classroom transactions. And last, to investigate the role of teachers as reflective practitioner in implementing gender-friendly approach in classroom context. Praxis of gender equity approach in curriculum transactions. A teacher, by involving the girls equally in various classroom activities, can bring about desirable changes in classroom interactions. On the basis of his or her ingenuity and initiative, a teacher can undo the damage done by giving the message that girls are as capable as the boys and that gender does not affect performance. And conclusion from this study, we conclude that the praxis of gender equity is to be exercised judiciously and strategically through the reflective practice on the part of the teachers. This paper aims at sensitizing the teachers about the need and importance of a gender-friendly approach in curriculum transactions in both scholastic and co-scholastic areas of academic pursuits. Thank you to all. Thank you, University of Siliguri B.Ed College. Thanks to all.
Good afternoon, everybody. The title of my paper is In Search of a Gender Inclusive Curriculum, A Journey. Gender issues now have become people's issues defined by power relations in multicultural societies like India. In this context, the role of formal education becomes very crucial. John Dewey called school not only a society in miniature but also a simplified, purified and a better balanced society. If that be so, then all kinds of bias, stereotypes and discriminations must be removed from the curriculum itself to create a gender bias-free society. So, a gender-inclusive curriculum is a must. The objectives of my study are: number 1, to review the paradigm shift from a gendered curriculum towards a gender-inclusive curriculum in post-independent India with special reference to the growth of women's education. Number 2, to identify gender bias and stereotypes in textual materials. And number 3, to encourage teachers to create a gender-inclusive ambience in the classroom and also to facilitate a gender bias-free teaching learning process. My findings of this study are: to be in very brief, if we review the recommendations of various education commissions, we find that though these commissions spoke in favor of special focus on girls and women's education, more facilities for girls in co-ed institutions, equal salary for both male and female teachers, they still preferred a separate curriculum for the boys and girls, separate schools for boys and girls, and also the inclusion of home science, arts, music, etc. to facilitate girls' education. But from Durgabai Deshmukh committee, then Hansa Mehta committee, Bhaktavatsalam committee, we find that they argued strongly not to make cooking, home science, music compulsory for girls. Even they rather they encouraged them to study science, mathematics and other technical subjects. Then the Kothari Commission also recommended to recruit more female teachers in subjects like mathematics, science, technical subjects, etc., to encourage the girl students to pursue study in these disciplines and also in medical sciences. Then national policies of 1968-1986, then Program of Action 1992, then our NCF recommendations in 2000 and 2005, and lastly NEP 2020, all have stressed on attaining the gender equality in education. But policy framing alone cannot do this task. We have to critically analyze the core and hidden curriculum. Though lots of positive changes have taken place, but these are not enough, miles to go. Like some of examples, I would like to just present before you. Textbooks must be designed more carefully. Though number of women authors, women characters in various the language and literature books, they have been increased. But what about the third gender participation and presentation? They are still missing. In subjects like mathematics, we normally think that there is no gender bias. But if you study carefully the problem sums, these are all about the milkman, the boy, the father, the driver, the railway man, the guard, etc., etc. Are there enough representation of women mathematicians? Then in social science also, we find why in history book always the child learns about the four fathers, not of four parents. Only primitive men, not of primitive humans. Only male kings and warriors in action, even if there are the women counterparts, but they are so negligible that they are countable. So regarding sitting arrangements, distribution of work, then the selection of cultural and sports events, are we following a gender inclusive curriculum? This is a very serious issue. I think these issues must be addressed with utmost urgency and sincerity. So I have tried to address these questions in my paper and tried to find out the solutions and also some suggestive measures to overcome this gender bias, whatever bias still exists in the curriculum, and how we can proceed towards a gender inclusive curriculum. Thank you.
Good afternoon to all. This paper is presented by, on behalf of my group, myself, Vishwasinte and Diganta Kumar Das. And so we have chosen the topic, Social Constraint Among SC and ST Women, a case study of rural area in Assam. So this paper identifies an attempt to analyze the social constraint among the SC/ST women in rural area of Assam. Today, the women participate in the all aspect of the society. The women playing the remarkable role within the family as a mothers, child takers, and homemakers, etc. Also, they are playing as a secretary, manager, executive, political leaders, etc. outside of the families. The studies reveal that the women are still face the many social constraints, especially among the SC/ST community in the study areas. The studies try to find out the various social constraints associated with the SC/ST women in the rural area of the study. The study also identified the role and contribution of the women for the family as well as for the societies. And the objective of the study are to find out the various factors related to the social constraint, to analyze the role and contribution of women to the communities, to summarize the finding of the study and conclusion of the studies. The methodology that we have shown, the studies based on both the primary and secondary data. The data for the study has been collected from the 120 household family equally from the Lakhimpur and Dhemaji district of Assam. The studies are conducted only in the rural area of the both the district, and respondents were randomly selected from different villages. The scope and limitation of studies, all women in the study areas were mainly engaged in the agriculture, weaving, packaging, poultry, and so on. The studies was confined to the rural area, rural women in Assam. The study was conducted under the Lakhimpur and Dhemaji district on the north bank of the river Brahmaputra. And the main findings of the study are: this paper examined the social constraint of the rural women in Assam and how their social constraint has been affected to the social life. In a rural area, rural economy is in Assam based on the agriculture with 100%, and 99% SC/ST women are directly attached with the agriculture. And the study revealed that the overall level of the education was observed very low, and there are only 7% women having the high school education, and others 93% education level under the lower and upper primary and no school education. The study also revealed that 70% SC/ST women were married in an early age in the study area. Others, only 30% women were married in a average age. Thus, the early marriage is one of the main factors among the SC/ST women. The overall findings revealed that the social constraint among SC/ST women due to the not enough education, not enough economic power, and not enough income source. This also clearly indicated that education and economic power and income source is the main drawback among the respondents. So, suggestion: the government should take the appropriate and effective policy to upliftment of SC/ST women. The government should take to enhance the literacy level of the SC/ST women. Conclusion: so, from the study, it is found that majority of the respondents, is 90%, is said to be facing a social status related to a problem like education, followed by the health issues, social economic issues, lack of proper training, skill and marital issues, etc. This revealed that the majority of the respondents were from the poor economic background and had very less education. Also, the respondents is said to be facing the financial issues due to a limited source of income. The study conclude that the SC/ST women having social constraint due to the respondent were lack of the proper knowledge, education, enough income source, so they will remain unchanged. And with this, I conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Shobharinath, Assistant Professor, Pragati College of Education, Shalbari, Siliguri, West Bengal. Today, I would like to focus on the topic position of women in modern society, especially Indian women. As we know, in most civilizations and societies in history, women did not have the same right as men, but were barred from public sphere of politics and economics to a very large extent. Their place at home and their task was to raise children and attend their husband, their master. Of course, in the early Vedic period, the Indian women enjoyed a very respectable position in the society. They could part religious rites, attend festivals, and participate in social and political activities. But in due course, the Indian women lost their position in the society. Sita in the Ramayana and Draupadi in the Mahabharata are the burning examples of Indian women. In the post-Vedic period, the status of the Indian woman began to decline on account of the supremacy of the priestly class. In the medieval period, the women were held complete subjugation to men and their social status began to decrease. They were subjected to various social evils like sati, child marriage, female infanticide, dowry system, pardapata, polygamy, and they were completely deprived of rights and minimum social status. The system of polygamy was common both in Hindu and Muslim society. It is true that throughout the long period of time, from Indian history, we get some instance of outstanding women like Gargi, Noor Jahan, Rajya Sultana, Rani Lakshmi Bai, but they all belong from the ruling class. But mass of Indian women had neither opportunities nor freedom of the development for their self-expression. When British came in India, British had brought a revolution in the social status of the Indian woman. Men like Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Devendranath Tagore raised their voice against the injustice of Indian women. They attacked the practice of sati, child marriage, widow remarriage, and evolution of discrimination between the men and women, and strongly advocated of education for women. In Muslim society, Sir Syed Ahmed Khan attempted modern education for Muslim girls. The Indian women have been protected by several laws before and after independence. When India contact with foreign countries, the women liberation movements of other countries, their claims of equality with men, their thoughts, their jobs, their thinkings, etc. also helped in the emancipation of Indian women because they inspired them to struggle for their betterment. Modern women are now doctors, engineers, teachers, administrators, political leaders, etc. A number of NGOs and women organizations are working for the upliftment and protection of the rights of women. All this is a good sign in the improvement of the condition of Indian women. Yet, the condition of Indian women cannot be regarded as satisfactory. So, women are the backbone of the society to bring strength, harmony, cooperation, humanity, and eventually transforming the society into a compassionate and peaceful place to live in. Thank you.
Good afternoon all. I am Jhuma Hudi, librarian of Naxalbari College. My paper is Nature of Women-Centric Bengali Television Serial and its Negative Impact. Basic objective of my paper to highlight the nature of women-centric Bengali television serial and to examine the negative impact of women-centric Bengali television serial. Content analysis, comparative analysis, and internet research is the basic methodology. Some nature of the women-centric Bengali TV serial. First of all, Kolkata-based television serial production houses highly try to grab attention, particularly at the evening time, from a massive number of people belonging to Bengali society by producing women-centered television serial. Several overwhelming evidence can be produced in support of people's Bengali TV serials addiction, but it is very difficult to measure whether this people interest is inherent or it is newly developed attraction. Secondly, it is perceived that the people from various economic backgrounds are taking interest in Bengali television serials and spending a considerable amount of time experiencing multidimensional role of the woman as a project through television channel. Widely projected theme as a woman is a good doctor, wife, mother, and life companion, etc. Thirdly, current Bengali television serials mostly highlight love and affection, marriage, divorce, remarriage, conspiracy, extramarital affairs, deprivation, success and failure, etc., centering round the life of a woman. Fourthly, nowadays, Bengali television serials are significant source of income for the women. It can be easily be understood that the percentage of the women artists is comparatively high than of the men artists. Mimi Chakraborty, Ritaburi Chakraborty are few popular personalities who come from the small scheme. Fifthly, wardrobes is contemporary Bengali TV serials are also very impressive. Makeup of the actress are outstanding than of the actors. The viewers express their desire to copy the actresses to whom people think popular identity and unique character. Some of the negative impact of Bengali TV serial. Firstly, TV serial can be seen in the role of a Bengali woman in their domestic life. Women members are deeply interested in experiencing evening time Bengali TV serial than that of the rearing and caring their children. Secondly, culture like divorce, remarriage, extramarital affairs, etc. were strictly blameful in Bengali society, particularly in the rural area. But due to the broadcast of Bengali TV serials highlight on these post-modern issues, we witness the people are getting opportunity to reconstruct their mindset up. Ultimately, people are welcoming this culture with serious trouble. So one of my questions, this is the erosion of traditional Bengali culture or modernization. Thirdly, few important issues of postmodern feminism such as abortion, prostitution, pre-marriage, motherhood, etc. All these are either silent in Bengali TV serial or lightly projected. Fourthly, everyone would justify that evening time news is better than evening time TV serial. A considerable figure of Indian population is ghastly in ignorance about the problems and emerging challenges of the country because of their eager interest in television serials. Fifthly, TV serials addiction is hindrance to practice good habits such as library visits, social work, constructive human action like writing, poem, music, practice, and so on. So thank you all.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Pramana Gurung, librarian of Merik College. It is a great pleasure to present my paper online among such distinguished speakers, my colleagues, students, and guests. My topic of presentation is the position of women in the modern society. First of all, I would like to proceed my presentation by asking a question. What does it mean to be a woman? Being human means a mother, a sister, a wife, a daughter, and a friend. Women are true heroes who fight for their purposes and who love to be respected and appreciated. In modern society, the position of women has changed significantly. Today, the modern women are completely different from what they used to be. They are no longer the better half of someone or something. They are their own self. They represent their own idea and belief, and in one word, they are free and self-dependent. Now, moving on to the aims and objectives of the study. This paper aimed to study the position of women in the modern society, to investigate whether the position of women has improved and deteriorated in the modern society, to give an awareness and insight into the role played by the women in different fields like education, economic and employment, politics and sports, to make women aware about some of the useful rights given to them by the government. Now, moving on the methodology of this paper, which is purely descriptive one, and the information are collected from both primary and secondary sources like books, journals, internet source, and scientific paper. Now, talking about the findings of this paper, we can see that women have done tremendous success in every field. Now, more and more women are coming out and opting for education. Education for disabled women has also improved. In 2011, Guisi Spagnolo became the first woman with Down syndrome to graduate college in Europe. Likewise, in economic and employment field, they are giving tough competition to men folk. They are not only performing simple jobs, but joining military and other defense forces, thus contributing to the country's economy as well as country's protection. Moreover, in politics and sports, women's participation has increased significantly. The rate of women participation in the national parliament globally has increased from 11.8% in 1998 to 23.5% in 2018. The Youth Olympic Game Buenos Aires 2014 is a fully gender balanced Olympic event ever. Most recently, Tokyo 2020 will see female participation rise by 48.4%, which doubled the number of previous Olympic Games at Rio 2016. Thus, we find that women are doing considerable improvement in all areas. Now, I would like to conclude by saying that though the position of women in the modern society is high, but the overall picture of the woman position in the world is not satisfactory. We live in a world where the goddesses are worshipped and women get harassed, abused, raped every single day. Now the question is, how terrible is to be born as a girl in the world today? Almost daily headline about the cruel act of violence, exploitation and discrimination against women seems that from the gang rape from the kidnapping of the nearly 276 school children in Nigeria to that of the recent gang rape and murder of the 26-year-old veterinary doctor provides plenty of reason to be pessimistic about women's security and equality in the world. Despite major initiatives taken by the government to end the discrimination, the ground level situation still shows that much remains to be done. Last but not the least, we should not forget that women has fought a great deal so that the present times would treat the new female generation differently. And we should remember that the progress of nation is not possible until and unless there is an active participation of its mother, daughter, wife, and a sister. That's all I had to share with all of you today. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Be a girl with a mind, a woman with attitude, and a lady with class. William Shakespeare said about women, the world would be imperfect without the presence of the woman. The woman came out of man's rib, not from the feet to be trampled on, not from his head to be superior, but from the side to be equal, under the arm to be protected, and next to the herd to be loved. Women have been occupying a high place of pride and honor in India during Aryan times. They have enjoyed symbolic respect and importance in many cultures. The earliest myths and religions have often placed women at the beginning of technologies of agriculture, law, and medicine. There are two very notable goddesses mentioned in the Rig Veda, Saraswati and Sinivali. Saraswati is the first female physician in the history of ancient medicine in India. Sinivali was either an obstetrician or a birth attendant who worked with or side by side with Saraswati. During Vedic age, the highlight was that women enjoyed equal rights in education, politics, and property. The status of women in Indian society underwent many changes as a result of the social changes in the country. Among the various sub-disciplines of science, medicine was the first to attract Indian women. In the pre-independence period, the status of women within the country was in a deprived state. The major cause of this was prevalence of male dominance. Due to this, the position of women was undermined. The women were forced towards the implementation of household responsibilities. They were not allowed to participate in the implementation of other tasks and activities and express their ideas and viewpoints. When everyone said women should not be educated, she didn't give up. She is Kadambini Ganguly, the extraordinary woman who broke the glass ceiling on women's freedom. She was one of the first women graduate in India and to get admission to Calcutta Medical College in 1884. She was among the first female practitioners of Western medicine, not just in India but in the whole of South Asia. Incredibly confident, determined and multifaceted Kadambini Ganguly was the voice of women's education and rights. Anandi Gopal Joshi, in the year 1886, another woman from India, obtained a degree in Western medicine, but she graduated from Women's Medical College in Philadelphia, USA, and thus became first Indian to study medicine from abroad. Rajeshwari Chatterjee is the first woman scientist to pioneer the field of microwave engineering and antenna engineering in India. The status of Indian women has radically changed since independence. They are entering into all kinds of professions like engineering, medicine, research in different spheres of science. The participation of women in engineering remained negligible till the early 1980s. It is only in the past 15 years that their enrollment has increased. Women in India are now an integral part of every sphere of science, be it research, trade, policy or education. They are competent, sharp and knowledgeable and being admired as contributors in the professional as well as social community groups. A comparative analysis of Indian Institute of Technology and the most prominent engineering colleges in the country depicts the immense gap in gender equality with an average female faculty of 11.24%. The first group of IITs established between 1951 to 2001 shows an average of 10.74% women faculty in science and technology stream, followed by 11.6% in second set, that is 2008 to 2009, 8 IITs, and 11.33% in third set, 2012 to 2016, in 8 IITs. Among the universities, IISc Bangalore came out as the mostly male-dominated with 8.6% female faculty, while Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham 45.8% and Savitribai Phule Pune University 40.53% stands out with most balanced distribution of gender within India. The National Institute of Technologies exhibit an average of 17.75% of women faculty, with NIT Uttarakhand having the lowest 6.67% and NIT Manipur having the highest percentage, 29.41% of female faculty. The Council of Scientific and Industrial Research is one of the largest research organizations with 38 national laboratories and approximately 4,600 active scientists distributed throughout India, of which only 18.48% are women. The distribution of gender in Indian Institutes of Science, Education and Research throughout the India is 15.47% female and 84.52% male. Different research institutes mainly focused on biological sciences such as NCBS, ILS, IICB, etc. exhibit the same profile of having 23.12% female scientists compared to 77.49% of male scientists. According to National Survey Research and Development Statistics 2011-12, there were 66,302 women employed in R&D establishment, which works out to be 15.03% of the total manpower employed in the country in R&D establishments. The large drop in the number of women between the doctoral and professional stages appears to be in part due to social pressure on women to have a family which is seen as incompatible within a professional career. There are patriarchal attitude in hiring practices. So many women are discriminated against at this stage as well, with administrators deciding that women should be opting for family over a career. For women holding position in governmental institution, there is presently a policy that entitles them to 2 years of support for child care leave, which they can take at any point until their children are 18 years of age. This is intended to help balance the pressure of maintaining a family and a career. Here I have included the names of 11 Indian women scientists who have come into prominence to be established chairs in their name in institutes across the country. Contribution of women scientists in modern India. Tessie Thomas, known as the Missile Woman of India, is the Director General of Aeronautical System and the former Project Director for Agni-4 missile in Defense Research and Development Organization. She is the first woman scientist to head a missile project in India. Mithya Vanitha is the Project Director of Chandrayaan-2. She is the first woman to lead the interplanetary mission at ISRO. Ritu Karidhal as Mission Director of the Chandrayaan-2 mission. Gagandeep Kang, a virologist and scientist, is known for her interdisciplinary research in transmission, development and prevention of enteric infections. The Polar Woman of ISRO, Mangala Mani, is ISRO's first woman scientist to spend more than a year in the icy landscape of Antarctica. Dr. Aditi Pant is an oceanographer by profession and is one of the first Indian women to visit the icy continent Antarctica. She was a part of the third Indian expedition. Chandrima Saha is a biologist and the first ever woman president of the Indian National Science Academy. Kiran Majumdar-Shaw is an Indian billionaire entrepreneur. She is the chairperson and managing director of Biocon Limited, a biotechnology company based in Bangalore. Flight Lieutenant Shivangi Singh is set to become the first woman fighter pilot of India to fly the Rafale combat aircraft. So, women in India slowly started recognizing her true potential. She has started questioning the rules laid down for her by the society. As a result, she has started breaking barriers and earned a respectable position in the world. Today, Indian women have excelled in each and every field, from social work to visiting space station. The Indian woman has to make her way through all the socialized prejudices against her, and the men yet have to allow and accept the woman to be equal participant in the country's way forward. Now it's time to say thanks. I like to thank convener Dr. Ratna Nundi and Shaurav Das for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tumpa Saha. I am a PhD research scholar from the University of North Bengal, Department of Library and Information Science. I am very much thankful to Siliguri B.Ed College organizers to giving me the opportunity for paper presentation in this webinar. Today, my topic or discussion about emergency of open educational resources for rural women empowerment in India, the possible roles of public libraries for disseminating knowledge. First of all, I want to say why I am choosing like that topic. In today's environment, women empowerment is a prerequisite for a good nation. Women empowerment means the ability for women to enjoy their right to control and benefit from resources, assets, income, and their own time, as well as the ability to manage risk and improve their economic status and well-being. But rural women are less literate than urban women, as well as the rural men, because there was a negative attitude of the family towards education for girl child, and the dropout rates is high of girls from schools, including some factors inhibiting women growth in India. These are lack of digital literacy, lack of access to necessary and sufficient information, being economically poor, mistreatment, violence, overwork, linguistic diversity. Rural women need information for education, vocation, job, business, health, childcare, and recreation, etc. To fulfill these needs, women can follow open educational resources as per their choice. Open educational resources are openly accessible, freely licensed, text, media, and other digital assets that are useful for teaching, learning, assessing, as well as research purposes. So, in this paper, I am trying to highlight it that how open educational resources can be helped rural women to educate without any bindings, and how public library can be act as an intermediary center to disseminate knowledge for rural women. So thus the objectives of my study is to understand which type of information sought by the rural women in India, to give a comprehensive account of women-centric open educational resources in India, to explore the government initiatives which have been proposed for rural women empowerment in India, to assess the possible roles of public libraries for disseminating knowledge. Some open educational resources platforms like Sugamya Pustakalay, this is for blind people as well as those who are not read and write. Cleville, Swayam Portal, Swayam Prabha, this is a DTH TV channel, Diksha, EPG Pathshala, those all are many more and freely accessible for primary to higher education. According to UNESCO, Public Library Manifesto defines public library as the local gateway of knowledge. So public library can be act as an intermediary center for women's open educational resources, to provide teleworking facility, current awareness service, selective dissemination of information service, reference service, extension service, and awareness program, etc. To award the rural women to about their human rights, gender equality, education, economic and occupational empowerment, legal information, political information, information regarding their health. Thus, my recommendation is government may take necessary steps. The social entrepreneurs who are actively working with ICT, they may undertake pilot projects. The public libraries happen to cover the widest women population possible. So the conclusion of my study is that it is the high time for emergency of open educational resources for empowering rural women in India, and it is the need of the hour that public library should be act as a facilitator to empower the women. Thank you.
My respect to the chairperson of the two-day international webinar entitled Looking at Gender Through Wearing Lenses. I, Dr. Arpuna Dhardas, Assistant Headmistress of Margaret Sister Nivedita English School, Pradhannagar, Siliguri, feel privileged to be a part of this program and would like to give a brief presentation of my paper entitled Position of Women in Modern Society, where I have focused on the changes in the status of women in the society from the early period, where we find the dominance of man, oppression and subjugation of women till the modern era where women have come to the forefront in the field of education, sports, economic activity, political arena, and social setup. I have tried to focus on the factors leading to drastic changes in the position of women from past to the present. The paper is broadly descriptive, predominantly based on literature review and print media. The conclusion will include further suggestions about gender equality in all spheres of life and in all types of society, rural or urban, since sexual harassment, trafficking, and other forms of women oppression still continue in various areas. To speak about women in modern society, it is imperative to refer to the statement of the great Hindu monk Swami Vivekananda, who stated, "The best thermometer to the progress of the nation is its treatment of its women. There is no chance for the welfare of the world unless the condition of women is improved." This precious statement of the great Indian saint expresses the value of women in the society. Both men and women make up the societal matrix, and unlike men, women contribute equally to the welfare and progress of the nation. Women of ancient India, especially during the Vedic period, enjoyed equal or even high intellectual and spiritual status as their male counterparts. With the advent of the patriarchal society, gradually from the post-Vedic period, the position of women started declining, and they were considered to be mere homemakers, making happy and strong families for their men. Dominance, subjugation, and exploitation of women in all forms existed in the patriarchal society due to the superiority of men in terms of the physical strength, intelligence, education, and their participation in decision-making activities of the society. The realization about the importance of women in the society and by some social reformers like Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Dayanand Saraswati, and many others, the strong legislations in favor of women, and the consciousness of women about themselves brought about drastic changes in the status of modern women. The feminist movement, which is a totalitarian mass movement undertaken by women of all sects to bring an end to all forms of feminist oppression, is a strong factor which has led to women empowerment and upliftment of women at large. Spread of education among women, leading to their intellectual development, has played a key role in focusing on the dominant role of women in the society. A democracy can run steadily only with the equitable participation of men and women. Active participation of women in political parties, parliament, and other areas of governance is a clear indication of women empowerment. Although women have marched forward in all respects, yet patriarchy in some form or the other still exists in the society. Lot of crime against women is seen in the modern society. Constitutional provisions alone cannot solve this issue. Change in the mindset of both men and women at large can only bring about true equality of men and women in the society. Thank you.
Hello, I am Ankita Banik, research scholar from Department of Sociology, University of North Bengal. So, in this webinar, the theme is based on looking at gender through varying lenses. So, in this theme, I have chosen my topic, education and the changing status of women in West Bengal. So, the present study is based on how education increase the capabilities of women towards their challenges and problems and to confront to change their traditional role and lives in West Bengal. So the article reveals that how the role of education affects in the changing status of women in West Bengal, India. This article tries to discuss about the women's education as a powerful tool in their development and empowerment. Education increases the women opportunities and life chances available to them. The status of women in India has been obstructed for centuries and depriving from their basic facilities. So in this manner, as we all know about the status of women in India has been subject to many changes over the span of recorded Indian history. During the British Raj, many reformers such as Ram Mohan Roy, Isha Chandra Vidyasagar and Jyotirao Phule fought for the betterment of women's life. So after independence, government launches many schemes and programs for women development, but education is one of the most powerful instruments of social change and social development. So my objectives are: number one is to find out the literacy rate of women in West Bengal since independence. Number two is to know about the women work participation rate in West Bengal. Number three is to know about their socio-economic position in society. And number four, to find out how education improves their quality of life in family as well as society. My study is totally based on secondary data which I collected through various books, journals, national census forms. Coming to my findings, women still face their problem. Education gives them better quality of life. Restricted number of women earlier is changing. So, women's participation in economic activities, particularly outside the home, is often seen as an important factor facilitating the economic and social empowerment of women. Education is the key to gender equality. Education and employment are two basic tools that can change the economic and social status of women in near future. So, in this article, the literacy rate is generally considered as one of the important indicators of development of a population, and the educational level of a population is considered an important determinant of their quality of life. Education interacts with other human development variables in crucial ways. For example, universal education and special attention to women's education are critical to improving the health practices of a community. In addition, of course, universal education is also likely to be necessary for meaningful and effective decentralization, especially in the next phase when panchayats are given greater responsibility for a wide range of activities. In my study, empowered women should be able to participate in decision-making process in social and economic life inside and outside the home. The main finding is that employment has a positive impact on active participation in decision-making process at their home. In this way, I have suggested to improve the quality of women or the improve of the status of women is the first and leading priority should be given to the education of women, which is grassroots problem. Hence, education for women has to be paid special attention. Number two, awareness programs need to be organized for creating awareness among women. Number three, women should be allowed to work and should be provided enough safety and support to work. And number four, strict implementation of programs and acts should be there to control the improvement their quality of life. The conclusion is without women involvement towards civilization cannot be ignored. Women should practice our education and career opportunities. When the woman is empowered, it means the whole family is empowered and the overall society is empowered. Education play most important role towards empowerment. They should fight for themselves for having better living standard and they should make their own decisions. Women empowerment is an essential element in national development. Since women comprise half of the population, there can be no development unless the needs and interests of women are fully taken into account. So this is all about my topic in short. So thanking you and give some suggestions to improve my paper. Thank you.
আমি সঞ্চিতা রয়। আমার আজকের আলোচনার বিষয় হলো আধুনিক সমাজে নারীদের অবস্থান, অর্থাৎ আধুনিক ভারতীয় সমাজে নারীদের অবস্থান। আমার আলোচনার প্রথমে আমি কাজী নজরুল ইসলামের নারী কবিতার অন্তর্গত একটি লাইন দিয়ে শুরু করছি। এ বিশ্বে যত ফুটিয়াছে ফুল, ফলিয়াছে যত ফল, নারী দিল তাহে রূপরস গন্ধ সুনির্মল। জ্ঞানের লক্ষ্মী, গানের লক্ষ্মী, শস্য লক্ষ্মী নারী, সুষমা লক্ষ্মী নারী ফিরেছে রূপে রূপে সঞ্চারী। পৃথিবীর স্রষ্টা এবং ঈশ্বরের অন্যতম সৃষ্টি বলা হয় নারীকে, তাই অপরিবর্তনীয় রূপে নারীদের অবস্থান ঠিক নারীদের জায়গাতেই। কিন্তু সামাজিক দৃষ্টিভঙ্গির বারবার পরিবর্তনের ফলে নারীদের অবস্থানের একটি বাহ্যিক পরিবর্তন করার চেষ্টা করা হলেও নারী কিন্তু তার দক্ষতা, তার বিচক্ষণতা, তার ক্ষমতায় এবং তার ভালোবাসায় আজও অদ্বিতীয় এবং অমর। আমার আলোচনার মেইন উদ্দেশ্যগুলি হলো বর্তমান সমাজে বিভিন্ন ক্ষেত্রে নারীদের অবস্থান সম্পর্কে জানা, ভারতীয় সমাজের স্বাধীনতা এবং সমতার জন্য নারীদের যে সংগ্রাম তা সম্পর্কে জানা, সময়ের বিবর্তনে অতীত এবং বর্তমান সময়ে নারীদের অবস্থানের একটি তুলনামূলক আলোচনা করা, নারী অবদমনের কারণ, প্রক্রিয়া এবং তার প্রতিকার নিরূপণ করা। আমার যেহেতু আলোচনার বিষয়টি একটি সিস্টেমেটিক অ্যানালিটিক্যাল থিওরিটিক্যাল বেস, সুতরাং সেখানে আমি প্রাইমারি সোর্স অফ ডাটা এবং সেকেন্ডারি সোর্স অফ ডাটা বোথ ইউজ করেছি তথ্যগুলি সংগ্রহ করার জন্য। তো প্রাইমারি সোর্স অফ ডাটা হিসাবে আমি এখানে স্নোবল স্যাম্পলিংয়ের মাধ্যমে ইন্টারভিউ শিডিউল এবং কোশ্চেনিয়ারের দ্বারা তথ্যগুলি পেয়েছি, এবং সেকেন্ডারি ডাটা হিসাবে আমি এখানে বিভিন্ন রিসার্চ আর্টিকেল, জার্নাল এবং ইতিহাস পর্যালোচনা করে তথ্যগুলো নিয়েছি। পর্যালোচনা করে দেখা গেছে যে অষ্টাদশ এবং ঊনবিংশ শতকের মেয়েদের তুলনায় বর্তমানে বিংশ শতকের মেয়েরা অনেক বেশি ভোকাল, এবং কর্মের প্রতিটি ক্ষেত্রে প্রায় নারীদের অবস্থান আমরা লক্ষ্য করি। পূর্বের তুলনায় বর্তমানে নারীরা নারী শিক্ষার বিস্তারের ফলে স্বনির্ভর, অনেক বেশি স্বনির্ভর। নারী শিক্ষা, নারী সচেতনতা, নারী ক্ষমতায়ন এবং নারী সুরক্ষা সংক্রান্ত বিভিন্ন আইন প্রণয়নে নারীরা আজ দেশের প্রধানমন্ত্রী থেকে শুরু করে রাষ্ট্রপতি, দেশের অর্থমন্ত্রী এবং দেশের জাতীয় সুরক্ষার জন্য যে ব্যবহৃত যুদ্ধবিমান রাফাল তাও কিন্তু ওড়াচ্ছে আমাদের ভারতীয় মেয়েরা। কিন্তু যে সমাজে নারীদের দেবীরূপে পুজো করা হয় সেই সমাজে আমরা নারীদের কিন্তু অপর একটি রূপ দেখতে পারি, সেটা হচ্ছে পণ প্রথার জন্য এখনও মেয়েদেরকে বধূ নির্যাতনের শিকার হতে হয়। আমরা বলতে পারি যে সর্বভারতীয় একটি ইংলিশ গণমাধ্যম, সেটি হচ্ছে দ্য টেলিগ্রাফে একটি সমীক্ষা প্রকাশিত করা হয়েছিল। সেখানে বলা হয়েছে যে বিবাহিত মহিলাদের মধ্যে 21% মহিলা গৃহ বধূ নির্যাতনের শিকার হন। তারা এটি ভারতের যে পরিবার বধূ নির্যাতনের একটি সমীক্ষা রয়েছে সেখান থেকে তারা এটা প্রকাশ করেছে। এছাড়াও দেখেছি আমরা কন্যাভ্রূণ হত্যা একটা অন্যতম সামাজিক সংকট। 2011 সালের যে জনগণনা হয়েছিল সেখানে প্রতি 1000 জন পুরুষে মাত্র 940 জন নারী, মহিলার শিশুকন্যার জন্ম হয়। তো এটি একটি অবশ্যই সামাজিক একটি সংকট। কিন্তু বর্তমান বিংশ শতকে নারীদের অন্যতম প্রধান একটি সমস্যা হলো নারী সুরক্ষা। আমরা যদি রোজকার খবরের কাগজ বা আমরা যদি সংবাদ টিভি খুলে দেখি তাহলে রোজ দেখতে পাবো ধর্ষণ, গণধর্ষণ, শ্লীলতাহানি, অ্যাসিড অ্যাটাকের মতো ঘটনা যেন নিত্যদিনীয়, এবং সেটা যেন আমাদের কাছে একটি সাধারণ ঘটনায় পরিণত হয়েছে। তো এই নারী নির্যাতনের থেকে কিন্তু 3 মাসের একটি শিশুকন্যা থেকে শুরু করে 84 বছরের একটি বৃদ্ধা ঠাকুমাও কিন্তু বাদ যান না। তো আমাদের রাষ্ট্রকে অবশ্যই নারী শিক্ষার সাথে সাথে নারী সুরক্ষার দিকটিও বিশেষভাবে লক্ষ্য রাখতে হবে। নারী সুরক্ষার জন্য বিভিন্ন আইন প্রণয়ন করে তা শীঘ্র দমন করার ব্যবস্থা করতে হবে। যেমন ঠিক তেমনইভাবে নারীদের সমানাধিকার, নারী পুরুষের যে লিঙ্গগত বৈষম্য, তার নারী সুরক্ষার পথে যাতে বাধা হয়ে না দাঁড়ায়, তার জন্য কিন্তু পুরুষ শিক্ষার প্রয়োজন রয়েছে বলে আমি মনে করি। পুরুষ শিক্ষার আঙ্গিক যেন হয় তাদের নৈতিকতার এবং মূল্যবোধের, তবেই একটি সুন্দর সুষ্ঠু নারী পুরুষ ভেদাভেদহীন একটি মানব সমাজ গড়ে উঠবে। ধন্যবাদ।
Good evening everyone. I am Ankita Sen, student of Shiliguri B.Ed College. Now I am going to present my paper on the position of women from ancient to modern period in India. The two basic components of our society are male and female. Woman is a very wonderful creation of God. In Hindu ideology, the woman represented a duality from. Sometimes she is benevolent, fertile, just like Mother Goddess Lakshmi, and other times she is aggressive, destructive, malevolent, just like Ma Durga and Kali. Women now marching side by side with the man in every walk of life. From the ancient period to modern period, we found many changes in the position of women in the society. While the early Vedic women could attend assemblies and occupy a high position in the society, the later Vedic women could not able to gain a high status in the society. During the early Vedic period, women enjoy a fair amount freedom and equality. Women was encouraged to study the sculpture and were given Upanayana Samskaya. After that, they were divided into two classes, such as Brahmovadinis and the Sayadvahas. A woman who cultured the Vedas throughout their lives and never married are called Brahmovadinis, and women studying the Vedas till the marriage called the Sayadvahas. Students like Gargi, Maitri, Apala, Ghosha, Lopamudra hold a very high position in ancient Indian society. In the Vedic period, women could select their husband in an assembly called Sayamvara. They were no example of child marriage. 16 to 17 age have been considered as the marriageable age for girls. But in the later Vedic period, the woman could not able to gain high status. Upanayana Samskaya was prohibited. The birth of the daughter was considered inauspicious. It was actually a shifting from matriarchal society to the patriarchal society. In medieval period, the position of women gradually deteriorated. At that time, the child marriage, Satidaha Protha, polygamy, Devdasi Protha became a part of society. In this time, Johar and Protha system were introduced. Johar is a custom in which women could burn themselves alive due to invention of enemy. And Satidaha was another custom which was performed by an Indian woman to burn themselves with the dead body of their husband. In medieval period, now a few women succeeded in education, political and the literature. Razia Sultana, daughter of Iltutmish, was the first woman ruled Delhi. In the modern period, social reformers like Raja Rammohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Dayananda Saraswati and many other great men in India fought for the women education, widow remarriage, prohibiting Satidaha Protha, etc. In this period, women came out from their house to take part in the struggle for freedom. Women also served as soldiers of Jhansi Rani Regiment in Indian National Army, which was created by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose in 1943. From the independence of India, the position of women were coming strong with the help of a few human rights and women empowerment policies of India. In 21st century, the women continuing their fight for their own right and position in the society. Nowadays, we are all introduced with a new word, that is feminism. It is a set of movement aimed to defining, establishing and defining a equal political, economical and social rights and equal opportunities for the women in India.
Good evening, respected sir and madam. Today I will discuss about my article. My article title is Gender Equality and Women Empowerment in India. I will briefly discuss this topic in a few parts. These parts are introductions, aims and objectives of the study, research methodology, scenario of gender equality and women empowerment in India, findings, suggestions, and finally the conclusion. Introductions. Gender equality and women's empowerment are two sides of the same coins. Progresses toward gender equality requires women's empowerment and Women's empowerment requires increases in gender equality as shown. But before discussing this, we need to know the meaning of the word gender and sex. The term gender and sex are often used interchangeably. However, they are distinct concepts, whereas sex of individual is largely determined by biology. Their gender is socially constructed and comprises the roles, rights and obligations that attach to them on the basis of their sex. Gender equality is about equal opportunities, rights and responsibilities for women and men, girls and boys. It does not mean that women and men are same. Gender equality is a result of unequal power distribution between men and women. Next point, aims and objectives of the study. The main purpose of this paper is to highlight the importance of gender equality in women's empowerment. This paper will also cover gender equality scenario and types of inequality between men and women in India. Next point, research methodology. For the purpose of the present study, data has been collected from secondary sources. It is collected from journals, magazines, including the reports and documents of Government of India and various other publications. Next point, scenario of gender equality and women empowerment in India. After the independence of India in 1947, the constitution maker and the leaders recognized the equal social position of women with men. The Constitution of India guarantees equality of sex. Not only that, the Indian Constitution empowers the state to take necessary steps for gender equality and empowerment of women. The government taken various steps to gender equality and empowerment of women. For example, Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act 2013, Triple Talaq Bill 2019, the Maternity Benefit Act 2017, etc. The Government of India has also launched a number of projects aimed at empowering women and gender equality, such as Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Pradhan Mantri Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Matri Bandhana Yojana, Ujjwala Yojana. However, there still exists a wide gap between the goals enunciated in the constitutions and government policy one hand and situational reality of the status of women in India on the other hand. Gender equality is on the rise in many areas. Crimes like rape, child marriage, kidnapping, murder, child abuse, child girl selling are on the rise in India. Next finding. So, women in India are still victims of gender discrimination and advantage absolutely. Suggestions. So, my opinion is how many measures need to be taken for gender equality and women empowerment in India. Most important measures are: number one, elimination of all forms of discrimination girls and women. Number two, equal representation of men and women in employment, cultural and social opportunities. Number three, the physical, emotional and economic effects of violence against women to be addressed through adequately funded, accessible, women-led and directed health and education program. Number four, promotion of women to more senior and leadership position. Number five, promotion and protection of the sexual and reproductive health rights of women. Number 6, sex education must be mandatory in school. And finally, number 7, actively promote women to stand as candidates for election. Last point, conclusion. As women constitute almost one half of India's population, without their empowerment, India can never develop it. In the end, it can be said that mindset of people needs to be changed, and people need to look at women with respect, love and gratitude. Only then women be empowered in India and gender equality will be established. Thank you.
নমস্কার, উপস্থিত সকলকে আন্তরিক শুভেচ্ছা জানিয়ে আমি আমার লেখা আধুনিক সমাজে নারীদের অবস্থান শীর্ষক প্রবন্ধটি বা আর্টিকেলটি তুলে ধরছি। আমার এই আর্টিকেলে আমি বিভিন্ন যুগে ভারতীয় সমাজে নারীদের অবস্থানের কথা ব্যক্ত করেছি। তো আমরা যদি ঋগ বৈদিক যুগে নারীদের অবস্থান, সামাজিক অবস্থানের দিকে তাকাই, তাহলে সেখানে দেখতে পাবো যে নারীদের অবস্থা ছিল খুবই সম্মানজনক। সমাজে তারা ছিল পুরুষের সমকক্ষ। সেখানে বা সেই যুগে কন্যা সন্তানকে কখনো অবহেলা করা হতো না। নারীরা বিভিন্ন রকম ধর্মীয় কাজে, সামাজিক কাজে এবং প্রশাসনিক কাজে বা রাজনৈতিক কাজে অংশগ্রহণ করতে পারতেন। নারীরা অশ্বারোহণও করতে পারতেন সে যুগে। এবং সে যুগের উল্লেখযোগ্য নারীদের মধ্যে, বিদুষী নারীদের মধ্যে আমরা জেনেছি বিশ্ববারা, অপলা, ঘোষা, লোপামুদ্রা প্রমুখ মহীয়সী নারীর নাম। অর্থাৎ সে যুগে নারীদের অবস্থা ছিল খুবই ভালো। এরপর যখন মধ্যযুগ আসলো, সে যুগে মধ্যযুগে আসার সঙ্গে সঙ্গে নারীদের মর্যাদা সংকুচিত হয়ে গেল। নারীকে ঘরের মধ্যে পর্দার আড়ালে বন্দি করে রাখা হলো। শুরু হলো পর্দা প্রথা। নারী হারালো তার সামাজিক মর্যাদা। মধ্যযুগের পর আসলো প্রবল দুর্দণ্ড প্রতাপ ব্রিটিশরা ভারতে। ব্রিটিশরা এসেছিল ভারতে, কিন্তু সে সময় যে মিশনারি শিক্ষা ব্রিটিশরা চালু করেছিলেন, সেখানে আমরা দেখেছি যে মিশনারি শিক্ষা নারীকে শিক্ষিত করতে উদ্যোগী ছিলেন। কিন্তু দুঃখের বিষয়, সে সময় ভারতীয় সমাজ ছিল দারুণভাবে রক্ষণশীল সমাজ। উচ্চবংশীয় রক্ষণশীলরা মনে করতেন যে মেয়েদের যদি বিদ্যালয়ে পাঠিয়ে শিক্ষিত করা হয়, তাহলে সেই মেয়ে খুব শীঘ্রই বিধবা হবে। এরপর ব্রিটিশরা চলে গেলেন। ব্রিটিশদের পর ভারতে সূচিত হলো আধুনিক যুগ। আধুনিক যুগে আমি যে নারীর অবস্থান আমার প্রবন্ধটিতে তুলে ধরেছি, সেখানে আমি দেখিয়েছি বা জোর দিয়েছি একটি শব্দের ওপর। সেই শব্দটি হলো নারীর ক্ষমতায়ন বা উইমেন এম্পাওয়ারমেন্ট। ক্ষমতায়ন শব্দটি তুলনামূলকভাবে নতুন। নারীর ক্ষমতায়ন বলতে বোঝায় সাধারণত নারীর স্বাধীনতা, বিভিন্ন ক্ষেত্রে নারীর অধিকার প্রতিষ্ঠা করা, বিশেষ করে নারীর অর্থনৈতিক অধিকারকে বোঝায়। আরও জোর দিয়ে যদি বলি, নারীর ক্ষমতায়ন হলো নারীকে ডিসিশন মেকার হিসাবে গড়ে তুলতে সাহায্য করে। এই হলো আধুনিক যুগে নারীর ক্ষমতায়ন। এবং এই প্রবন্ধটিতে আমি আরও দেখিয়েছি ভারত সরকার নারীদের উন্নতিকল্পে কী কী ধরনের পদক্ষেপ গ্রহণ করেছেন। ভারত সরকার যে পদক্ষেপগুলো গ্রহণ করেছেন সেগুলো খুবই প্রশংসনীয়। যেমন চিকিৎসা ক্ষেত্রে বা স্বাস্থ্যক্ষেত্রে, অর্থনৈতিক নিরাপত্তার ক্ষেত্রে, তারপর নারীদের সামাজিক বা নারীদের ফিজিক্যাল নিরাপত্তা দিতে বিভিন্ন রকম স্কিম ভারত সরকার বা প্রকল্প ভারত সরকার দিয়েছেন। কিন্তু এই সমস্ত দিকগুলো তুলে ধরার পরও আমি একটা জিনিস দেখতে পেয়েছি যে এত সবের পরও নারীদের অবস্থা মোটেও সন্তুষ্টিজনক নয় সমাজের মধ্যে। আজও নারীরা সমাজে দ্বিতীয় শ্রেণীর নাগরিক হিসাবে পরিগণিত হয়। আজও আমাদের সমাজে নির্ভয়া কাণ্ডের পুনরাবৃত্তি দেখতে পাওয়া যায়। 8 থেকে 80 কোনো নারী আজ সুরক্ষিত নয়। বিভিন্ন ক্ষেত্রে নারীরা দারুণভাবে পুরুষশাসিত সমাজের দ্বারা নিষ্পেষিত হচ্ছে। সামাজিক নির্যাতনের, মানসিক নির্যাতনের জন্য শোষিত হচ্ছে। এবং এক্ষেত্রে আমি একটা ব্যাপারের উপরেই জোর দেবো যে নারীকে যতই নারীর জন্য সরকারের পদক্ষেপ থাকুক বা বিভিন্ন রকম প্রকল্প থাকুক, একটা জিনিসে আমি এত আলোচনার পর পৌঁছেছি যে নারীকে যদি আপন ভাগ্য জয় করতে হয় তাহলে অবশ্যই সেই নারীকে নিজের মানসিক শক্তি বৃদ্ধি করতে হবে, এবং এই মানসিক শক্তি, এই মানসিক জোরেই নারীকে সাহায্য করবে তার আপন ভাগ্য জয় করতে। এই বলেই আমি আমার সেমিনারের সংক্ষিপ্ত বিষয়বস্তু এখানেই শেষ করলাম। নমস্কার।
নমস্কার, আমি সমাপ্তি হালদার, বিদ্যাসাগর টিচার্স ট্রেনিং ইনস্টিটিউটের ইতিহাস বিভাগের সহ অধ্যাপিকা। শিলিগুড়ি বিএড কলেজ আয়োজিত লুকিং অফ জেন্ডার থ্রো ভ্যারিং লেন্সেস বিষয়ক 2 দিন ব্যাপী আন্তর্জাতিক ওয়েবিনারে আমি হিস্টোরিক্যাল ইভ্যালুয়েশন অফ জেন্ডার থট অ্যান্ড ইটস ইম্প্যাক্ট অন মডার্ন সোসাইটি অর্থাৎ লিঙ্গ সংক্রান্ত ভাবনার ঐতিহাসিক ক্রমবিকাশ এবং আধুনিক সমাজে এর প্রভাব শিরোনামে একটি পত্র উপস্থাপনার ক্ষুদ্র প্রয়াস করেছি। এই বিষয়টি আলোচনা করতে গিয়ে বহুমুখী ভাবনার দৃষ্টিকোণে সুদূর অতীত থেকে লিঙ্গ সংক্রান্ত ভাবনার ক্রমবিকাশ, ভারতে ঔপনিবেশিক ও পরবর্তী ঔপনিবেশিক যুগের নরনারীর মর্যাদাসূচক অবস্থান, বিপরীত লিঙ্গের পারস্পরিক নেতিবাচক ও হিংসাত্মক সম্পর্কের পরিণতি স্বরূপ ঘটতে থাকা ক্রমবর্ধমান গার্হস্থ্য ও পারিবারিক অপরাধ, বিবাহ পরবর্তী ধর্ষণ, খুন, জীবনের বিভিন্ন ক্ষেত্রে লিঙ্গগত অবস্থানের ভূমিকা, এই দিকগুলির ওপর গুরুত্ব আরোপ করা হয়েছে। লিঙ্গ সংক্রান্ত ভাবনার ক্রমবিকাশ আলোচনা পর্বে দেখা যায় যুগান্তরের ধারায় প্রবাহিত হয়ে বিভিন্ন কালে লিঙ্গ বৈষম্যমূলক ভাবনা বহুরূপে ভাবিত ও প্রকাশিত হয়ে বর্তমানের পথ অতিক্রম করতে করতে পরবর্তী প্রজন্মের ধারক ও বাহক হিসাবে ভবিষ্যতের দিকে ধাবিত হচ্ছে। মনুষ্য সমাজের অন্তর্ভুক্ত পরিবারগুলিতে শৈশব থেকেই শিশু, পুত্র ও কন্যার খাদ্যাভ্যাস, স্বাস্থ্য, চালচলন ও পরবর্তীকালে তাদের পেশা নির্বাচন, বিবাহ এবং বিবাহোত্তর জীবনের ক্ষেত্রে বহু শতাব্দী ব্যাপী লিঙ্গ বৈষম্যমূলক ভাবনা রূপ বদল করে বর্তমান ও ভবিষ্যতের মানব জীবনকে প্রভাবিত করছে। বর্তমান নারী মুক্তি আন্দোলনের ও নারীর ক্ষমতায়নের যুগেও নারীদের প্রকৃতই অর্থনৈতিক স্বাধীনতা ও মর্যাদাসূচক অবস্থান বজায় থাকছে, না তারা অভ্যস্ত পরাধীনতায় সন্তুষ্ট থেকে সমাজ বিপ্লবের মধ্য দিয়ে তাদের উন্নততর সামাজিক অবস্থান সম্পর্কে দ্বিধাগ্রস্ত বা ভীত হয়ে পড়ছে, সেই বিষয়েই এখানে আলোকপাত করা হয়েছে। নারী মুক্তি আন্দোলন ও নারী ক্ষমতায়নের স্লোগানের আবরণে তারা জীবনের সকল ক্ষেত্রে মুক্তি ও মর্যাদার কতখানি আনন্দ অনুভব করতে পারছে, সেই বিষয়ে আলোকপাত করা হয়েছে। ধন্যবাদ।
আমার নাম মৌমিতা ভাওয়াল। আমার আজকে আলোচ্য বিষয় হলো আধুনিক সমাজে নারীদের অবস্থান। আধুনিক সমাজে নারীদের অবস্থান আমরা যদি লক্ষ্য করি তাহলে দেখব আধুনিক সমাজে নারীরা বেশিরভাগ ক্ষেত্রে পুরুষদের থেকে এগিয়ে থাকলেও পুরুষদের যতটা সম্মান নারীদের ক্ষেত্রে ঠিক ততটা সম্মান আজও নারীরা পায়নি। শুধু তাই নয়, নারীদের জীবনে পুরুষ নিজের আধিপত্য বজায় রাখবার চেষ্টা করেছে। প্রতিনিয়ত নারীদের নিজস্ব স্বাধীনতাকে দমন করবার চেষ্টা চলেছে। তাদের স্বাধীনভাবে কথা বলা, চলা, এমনকি মতামত প্রকাশের ক্ষেত্রেও বাধা সৃষ্টি করা হয়েছে। নারীরা যতই পারদর্শী হোক না কেন, পুরুষদের থেকে তাদের স্থান সবসময় নিচে রাখা হয়েছে। যতই বলি না কেন আমরা নারী পুরুষ সমান, এমনকি নারী পুরুষের অধিকারও সমান, তবুও দেখতে পাই আমরা নারীদের তুলনায় পুরুষদের প্রাধান্যই বেশি দেওয়া হয়। তাদের স্বাধীনতাকে সবসময় বঞ্চিত করা হয়। নারীরা পুরুষদের থেকে উপযুক্ত সম্মান ও মর্যাদা পাচ্ছে না, যতটা তাদের পাওয়া উচিত ছিল। পুরুষের কাছে নারীরা কেবলমাত্র সন্তান উৎপাদক যন্ত্রে পরিণত হয়েছে। যন্ত্রকে যেভাবে চালনা করা হয় ঠিক সেইভাবে নারীদেরকেও চালনা করা হচ্ছে। আধুনিক সমাজে নারীকে ভোগ্যপণ্য হিসাবে দেখা হয়। আমরা অনেক ক্ষেত্রেই কাজের ক্ষেত্রে দেখি নারী ও পুরুষদের বিভাজন করা হয়। একজন নারী বিদেশে গিয়ে কাজ করা, বাইরে বেরোনো, ঘুরতে যাওয়া, এগুলো করার আগে তাদের অনেক ভাবনা চিন্তা করতে হয়। কিন্তু একজন পুরুষ বিদেশে গিয়ে চাকরি করা, পড়াশোনা করা, এমনকি ঘোরাফেরার ক্ষেত্রেও তাদের কোনো বাধার সম্মুখীন হতে হয় না। আমরা এটাও দেখেছি যে নারীদের ক্ষেত্রে বিয়ের আগে তার বাবা মার কথা মতো চলতে হয়, বিয়ের পরে স্বামী, শ্বশুরবাড়ি, আত্মীয় স্বজন, এদের কথা মতো চলতে হয়। নারীদের সবসময় পরের ওপর নির্ভর করেই চলতে হয়। নারীদের তার নিজের স্বাধীনভাবে চলা, এমনকি স্বাধীনভাবে মত প্রকাশের ক্ষমতাটাও থাকে না। সময় কারোর জন্য পাল্টায়নি, নারীদের জন্য তো সময় একদমই পাল্টায়নি। সমাজে এখনো অনেক কন্যাদায়গ্রস্ত পিতা আছে। এখনো গায়ের রং দেখে মেয়েদের বিচার করা হয়। গায়ের রং কালো হলে কন্যার পিতাকে পণ জোগাড় করতে হয় এবং কন্যাদায়গ্রস্ত পিতা নিজের সম্পত্তি সবকিছু বিক্রি করে নিঃস্ব হয়ে গিয়েও কন্যার বিয়ে একজন ভালো পাত্রের হাতে দিতে চায়। আমরা এটাও দেখেছি যে বিয়ের পরেও নারীদের ওপর অত্যাচার চালানো হয়। তাদের পণকে কেন্দ্র করে তাদের ওপর অত্যাচার, তাদের প্রহার করা হয়। এমনকি অনেক ক্ষেত্রে দেখা যায় তাদেরকে জ্বালিয়ে মারাও হয়। 8ই মার্চ আমরা নারী দিবস পালন করি। আদৌ কি নারীদের উপযুক্ত সম্মান দেওয়া হয়েছে? নারীরা কি আদৌ তার অধিকার ফিরে পেয়েছে? সেটা বলা খুবই কঠিন। আমাদের সমাজে এখনো নারী ধর্ষণের মতো ঘটনা ঘটে চলেছে। এখনো রাতে নারীরা বাইরে বেরোতে পারে না, তাদের ওপর অত্যাচার চালানো হয়, তাদেরকে নৃশংসভাবে হত্যা পর্যন্ত করা হয়। আমরা এটাই বলতে পারি যে বর্তমানে আধুনিক সমাজে নারীরা চিরকাল অবহেলিত, অবদমিত, অত্যাচারিত হয়েই চলেছে। তাই আমাদের উচিত যে নারীদের নিজের পায়ে দাঁড়ানো দরকার, নিজের মতামত প্রকাশের ক্ষমতা থাকা দরকার। বর্তমানে আধুনিক সমাজে নারীদের অবস্থান যাই হোক না কেন, আমাদের সকলের কর্তব্য নারীরা যেন তাদের উপযুক্ত সম্মান এবং মর্যাদা পায়। তারা যেন নিজেদের স্বাধীনতা এবং অধিকার থেকে বিচ্যুতি না হয়, সেদিকে আমরা লক্ষ্য রাখব এবং এর জন্য নারীদের কঠোর সংগ্রাম চালিয়ে যেতে হবে, নিজেদের উপর আস্থা রাখতে হবে এবং তাদের মধ্যেকার আত্মশক্তিকে জাগরিত রাখতে হবে। ধন্যবাদ।